In this episode, we turn to a part of incident response that often determines whether an organization stays calm and coordinated or becomes confused at the exact moment it most needs clarity. When people first think about security incidents, they often imagine technical teams hunting through logs, isolating systems, and stopping harmful activity. But none of that happens well if the right people do not get the right information at the right time. Communication is what turns scattered observations into shared understanding, and shared understanding is what allows decisions to happen quickly enough to matter. For someone studying the Certified Information Security Manager, CISM, this topic is especially important because reporting, notification, and escalation are not small administrative side tasks. They are core management disciplines that connect technical findings to business action, help leaders judge severity, protect the organization from avoidable delay, and reduce the risk that a serious incident gets worse simply because nobody communicated clearly enough or early enough. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A useful place to begin is by separating the three ideas in the title because beginners often hear them together and assume they all mean the same thing. Reporting usually refers to the act of sharing information about a suspicious event or confirmed incident so that it enters the organization's awareness and can be evaluated or acted upon. Notification is more focused on making sure specific people or groups are informed once certain conditions are met, especially when their awareness is needed for decision-making, legal obligations, customer impact, or operational response. Escalation means increasing the level of attention, authority, or urgency applied to the situation because its seriousness, scope, or potential consequences require broader involvement or faster action. These ideas overlap, but they do different work. An employee may report a suspicious email. The security team may notify legal counsel after discovering sensitive data exposure, and senior leadership may be brought in through escalation when business operations are at risk. Understanding those differences helps new learners see that communication and incident response is not one single message moving through the organization, but a sequence of structured decisions about who needs to know what, when they need to know it, and why that knowledge matters. The first communication challenge in any incident is getting the issue reported at all, because organizations cannot respond to what they do not know. Many incidents are first noticed by people who are not security specialists, such as employees who receive suspicious messages, system administrators who spot unusual behavior, customer-facing staff who hear about service problems, or managers who realize business activity does not look normal. If these people are unsure how to report a concern, or if they assume someone else will handle it, valuable time can be lost before trained responders even begin evaluating the situation. Good reporting practices make it easy for people to raise concerns without needing perfect technical language or complete certainty. A person should not feel they need to prove an incident before speaking up. What matters is that they know where to go, what basic information helps, and that the organization treats early reporting as responsible behavior rather than an inconvenience. This is one reason security culture matters so much. A reporting process only works when people trust that using it is worthwhile and that reasonable concerns will be taken seriously. A strong reporting process also depends on clarity about what should be reported, because vague expectations can create two different kinds of problems. Some people may report everything unusual, including harmless events that create noise and drain attention, while others may hold back on genuinely important warning signs because they are not sure whether the issue is serious enough. Organizations address this by teaching employees what suspicious activity can look like in practical terms and by giving simple examples that connect technical concerns to everyday work. Unexpected requests for credentials, unusual financial instructions, strange system behavior, missing files, unexplained account lockouts, unknown devices, or sudden service interruptions may all be worth reporting even if the person noticing them does not understand the deeper cause. The goal is not to turn every employee into an investigator. The goal is to make reporting accessible enough that early warning signals are not lost. For a beginner, This is a critical insight because many damaging incidents are not missed due to lack of technology alone. They are missed because a person noticed something odd and either did not know how to report it or did not believe the report would matter. Once a report is made, communication becomes more structured because the organization has to decide how the information moves internally and who becomes responsible for next steps. At this stage, accuracy matters, but so does restraint. A common mistake is sending incomplete or emotional messages too broadly, which can create confusion before the basic facts are even understood. Early internal reporting should focus on what was observed, when it was observed, what appears to be affected, what is still unknown, and what immediate action has already been taken, if any. This helps responders begin triage without turning the communication itself into another problem. It is usually better to say that suspicious access was detected and is being investigated than to announce a major breach before evidence supports that conclusion. Beginners should pay attention to that difference because incident response communication is not about sounding dramatic or urgent for its own sake. It is about being useful under pressure. The best internal messages create a shared operating picture that helps the team move forward without exaggeration, confusion, or false certainty that later has to be retracted. Notification becomes more important as the incident moves beyond early evaluation and begins affecting specific stakeholders who need to know about it for operational, legal, strategic, or customer-facing reasons. Not everyone who hears about an incident is being notified for the same purpose. Some people need awareness so they can make decisions, others need awareness so they can prepare for possible impact, and still others need awareness because laws, contracts, or internal governance expectations require it. For example, a business unit leader may need to know because a service used by customers is disrupted, legal counsel may need to know because regulated data could be involved, and communication staff may need to know because media attention is possible. Notification is therefore not just a courtesy update. It is part of how the organization activates the right responsibilities at the right time. This matters for CISM learners because security managers are often the bridge between technical discovery and organizational response. They must understand not only what happened, but which parties require timely notification and what each of those parties will need in order to act intelligently. Internal notification has its own challenges because different audiences need different levels of detail and different framing. Technical responders may need specifics about affected systems, suspicious behavior, containment status, and evidence gaps. Business leaders often need a clearer explanation of service impact, customer effect, timing, decision points, and likely next steps. Senior executives usually need concise but meaningful updates that help them understand the seriousness of the event without drowning them in low-level detail that does not change their decisions. When organizations fail to tailor communication, they either overwhelm non-technical leaders or provide so little substance that leaders cannot judge risk properly. Good communication translates rather than distorts. It preserves the meaning of the situation while adjusting the depth and language to the needs of the audience. A beginner should see this as a management skill rather than a speaking trick. Effective notification is about understanding what each audience must know in order to perform its role, while avoiding the temptation to either hide uncertainty or overcompensate with unnecessary technical detail that clouds the real issue. External notification raises the stakes even further because once communication leaves the organization, it can affect customers, partners, regulators, insurers, law enforcement, the public, and the organization's reputation. This is why external communication usually requires more coordination and greater discipline than internal updates. The organization must consider not only what it knows, but also what it can responsibly say, what obligations may apply, and what consequences may follow from inaccurate or premature statements. If customers are affected, communication may need to help them protect themselves while also being honest about the scope of the issue as currently understood. If regulators or contract partners must be notified, the timing and content may carry legal significance. For new learners, the key lesson is that external notification is not simply sending out an announcement once something bad happens. It is a managed communication activity that balances transparency, accuracy, timing, and accountability. Strong incident response depends on coordinating technical findings, legal review, executive judgment, and communications planning so that external messages support the response instead of creating new risk. Escalation is closely connected to notification, but it deserves separate attention because it is fundamentally about authority, urgency, and decision-making. A situation is escalated when it exceeds the level of routine handling and requires broader visibility, faster action, or more senior involvement than originally planned. This may happen because the incident affects critical systems, involves sensitive data, touches senior executives, threatens legal or regulatory consequences, or shows signs of growing quickly in scope or impact. Escalation ensures that issues do not remain buried too low in the organization when the consequences are too high for local handling alone. Beginners sometimes misunderstand escalation as a sign of panic or failure, but in mature programs, it is actually a sign of discipline. It means the organization has recognized that the incident's seriousness now requires different oversight or a broader response. Good escalation is timely, structured, and based on defined thresholds, not personal preference or office politics. It helps ensure that people with the authority to accept disruption, approve major response steps, and guide organizational messaging are involved before delay becomes costly. Escalation thresholds matter because people under stress do not always agree on when a situation has become serious enough to require senior attention. One person may want to elevate immediately, while another may prefer to wait for more evidence in order to avoid unnecessary alarm. Both instincts can be understandable, but if the organization has not thought ahead about escalation criteria, this disagreement can waste valuable time. Thresholds might involve service outages, confirmed compromise of sensitive data, widespread user impact, evidence of ongoing attacker movement, major financial risk, or any issue likely to generate external reporting obligations. What matters most is not the exact wording of a threshold, but that the organization has a shared understanding of what kinds of conditions trigger higher-level involvement. This helps incident communications move from improvisation to consistency. For beginners, the broader lesson is that escalation should not depend on who happens to be on duty or how persuasive someone sounds in a meeting. It should reflect the organization's agreed view of what kinds of risk deserve faster visibility and higher authority. The quality of incident response communication depends heavily on timing, and timing is harder than it first appears. Waiting too long to communicate can leave key stakeholders unaware, slow down decisions, and allow rumors to fill the space where useful information should have been. Communicating too early or too often without enough discipline can also create trouble, especially if the organization spreads speculation, contradicts itself, or overwhelms leaders with updates that contain little decision value. Effective timing means sharing enough information soon enough to support action, while being honest about uncertainty and careful not to present assumptions as established fact. That balance is one of the hardest skills in incident communication because pressure tends to push people toward either silence or overstatement. Strong communicators learn how to say what is known, what is being done, what is still being verified, and when the next update will come. This approach is powerful because it keeps stakeholders informed without pretending the organization knows more than it actually does at that moment, which helps preserve credibility throughout the response. Another major factor is message quality, because not every update that moves quickly is automatically useful. Good incident communication is clear, concise, relevant, and consistent with the current state of knowledge. It should avoid unnecessary jargon when speaking to non-technical audiences, avoid emotional language that creates panic, and avoid ambiguous phrasing that can be interpreted in conflicting ways by different teams. It should also separate facts from assessments, since the organization may need to say both what it observed and what it currently believes those observations suggest. For example, it is more useful to explain that suspicious account activity was confirmed on a critical system and that investigation is underway to determine whether data access occurred than to make a broad claim that an attacker stole information before evidence supports that conclusion. A beginner should recognize that clarity does not mean having perfect certainty. It means communicating in a way that lets the audience understand the situation, the likely implications, and the current level of confidence without being misled by overly broad or poorly framed language. Communication failures during incidents are often rooted in culture as much as process. If employees are afraid to report bad news, if managers filter information to protect themselves, or if leaders react harshly when the first facts are incomplete, then reporting, notification, and escalation all become weaker in practice no matter how good the written procedure looks. In those environments, people delay speaking up, soften the seriousness of problems, or try to solve issues quietly until the chance for coordinated response has already passed. Healthy incident communication culture is different. It encourages prompt reporting, treats escalation as responsible judgment rather than embarrassment, and accepts that early updates will often contain uncertainty because real incidents unfold in stages. This kind of culture does not excuse carelessness, but it does recognize that silence and delay can be more dangerous than imperfect early information. For a CISM learner, this is an important leadership lesson because incident communication is not sustained by templates alone. It is sustained by an environment where people know that timely, honest communication is valued and where the organization responds in a way that reinforces that behavior. Training and practice are what turn all of these ideas into a real organizational capability rather than a policy statement that sounds good on paper. People need to rehearse how incidents are reported, who is notified under different conditions, what triggers escalation, how updates are structured, and how technical findings are translated for business audiences. Without practice, even experienced professionals can hesitate or miscommunicate when pressure rises. Exercises often reveal simple but serious weaknesses, such as unclear contact paths, missing decision authority, confused notification order, or messages that are too technical for executives and too vague for responders. Those lessons are valuable because communication weaknesses that seem minor during calm periods can become major problems when an incident is active and every minute matters. In the end, reporting, notification, and escalation are how the organization converts awareness into action. When they are handled well, the response becomes faster, more coordinated, and more trustworthy. When they are handled poorly, even a technically manageable incident can turn into a larger business crisis because the people who needed to know either learned too late, learned the wrong thing, or never understood what their role required. As you step back from the whole topic, the central lesson is that incident response communication is not an accessory to technical response, but one of the main ways the organization protects itself during a fast-moving event. Reporting brings concerns into view. Notification brings the right stakeholders into the response, and escalation ensures that serious situations receive the authority and urgency they require. For someone new to CISM, the most important takeaway is that these communication activities must be deliberate, timely, audience-aware, and grounded in the realities of business impact, as well as technical evidence. Strong incident communication helps people act with confidence, preserves credibility when uncertainty is still high, and reduces the chance that avoidable silence or confusion becomes part of the damage. In that sense, communication is not just about spreading information. It is about creating order, enabling decisions, and making sure the organization can move together through an incident instead of fragmenting under pressure at the very moment unity matters most.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.